Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 144 for April 14th, 2015. I'm really sad that that's not 2014, because that would have lined up really nicely.
Right?
Anyways, my name is Rainbow Plasma. I'm the organizer and host of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Bernd 01, the special guest coordinator and generally sexy individual who brings the good looks to the show.
You can't say that.
And the wrong
say generally sexy to the show.
wrong words.
Pretty sure I could say that. I'm going to stick with it.
I'm Flutterguy317. I am the media manager of the podcast. I'll be editing this week. And I'm also good looking, maybe? I don't know.
We can be good looking together.
I'm Atmos Spark.
Yeah.
I'm only here because we were told the rule was quantity, not quality. So yeah, that's why I'm here. Also, I do questions.
I've
like,
got a couple
DeviantArt
questions for everybody today. Already. All right, we're back. Hi.
Hi.
Oh yeah, look,
I'm
you
not sure
still
if I'm
back.
glad to be
Yeah,
back
you're
yet.
back.
I've yet to be decided.
Wow, with an intro like that, I mean, who knows?
I mean, I think that we should win an award for the general smoothness of our intros.
Mm-hmm.
I think I should win an award for the smoothness of my looks.
Bernd,
Yeah, last, right?
Bernd, let's have a sit down conversation right now. Let's have
Would
just have a
the
little
award be
quick,
sandpaper to,
mid-podcast
like,
sit
smooth
down
them off?
conversation. Let me just talk to Bernd. I'm talking to you directly. Shut up! You horse!
No, I know there's got to be someone out there watching the show. It's like, oh, that Bernd guy, he's a really funny guy. I like him.
Especially all the people that
Said
met you at
no one ever.
BabsCon.
You
this
can't
week.
skip points. I
That's
thought we
not-
were going to talk
it's a
about the
real
fact that
good
you guys
looker.
did a podcast by yourself, and I'm really impressed and also slightly weirded
We can
out.
do that after.
thank you.
Friggin'
Yeah, let's talk about BabsCon
Transform
first
and
because
adapt.
All right.
that was a good
To
transition.
be fair, I didn't watch the episode, so I don't actually care that much.
Wow.
So we can talk about
Rude.
But we already knew that, Ted, because we
Yeah.
brought that up
It's
last
true.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
for the
And
record,
I've talked about it extensively.
I care about you, Joel and Ted.
Did you watch the
Thanks.
episode?
Thanks, Bernd.
I didn't
You
think
caught
so.
the
I
tail
did.
end.
I was there live, nerd.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I was at BabsCon last week, and it was fabulous last weekend. It was really, really fun. I was like, normally I just kind of went to like a pony convention just to go see the artists, and it's like, it's a Brony convention, I'm gonna go, and then I happened to meet a bunch of friends and whatnot. Like, other than the time, like, we all got together at Everfree Northwest and like BronyCons and stuff, this was the first time I kind of went to a con, not just like for you guys because I really wanted to see you and like podcast related stuff. I just went to go see a bunch of like friends and artists who I've met from other conventions. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was like it was like a con for Friendcon. It was like go to Friendcon, and like I went to BabsCon and then saw a bunch of like con friends that I had met at other conventions. And it was good times. I spent a lot of time with Darkflame, Johan's robot, and Mummified, of course, can't forget him. And I got to meet Citizen Smiley. That was pretty friggin'
Yay.
cool. So I got to meet him. He's in the chat. It was awesome. It was great meeting you, man. He drew me a thing. He was in like the hotel room, and he drew me like a little sketch on like the hotel notepad thing. You know?
He drew you like one of your French ponies?
Yes, he drew all of us, actually. It says CAC on a shield, and it has all four of us, and we're like a round little CAC shield. It's really cute.
Aw,
and
that's
he even has like
awesome.
the little hotel name on the bottom of the notepad. It says dialing instructions inside. It's pretty good.
It's authentic.
Yeah,
See?
little memories.
Sell that for millions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Citizen Smiley brought a bunch of shadow boxes he made for the silent auction for charity at the convention, and they sold for really good amounts of money. It's awesome. And you got to meet
That's cool.
the paper ponies. Also, something I didn't know Citizen was doing is the paper ponies were having Citizen help them make certain vector designs for their shadow boxes. So he's been helping them with that. So he's all like official and stuff now.
It's cool.
He's like,
Oh, cool.
yeah, right. He's like contracted and
Yeah.
junk. But anywho,
Well, to
Yeah.
like
very cool
back
stuff.
up for a second.
Yeah, go for it.
So, like, first of all, if we don't have a better name, Go to Friendcon is our episode title.
Friendcon
you know,
2015.
I wanted to touch on that for a second because I think that's a really good point. Like, you know, when we first went to conventions, and like, I think you went to a couple before, like low-key Bernd, but like when we went to like Everfree Northwest was a big example, right? Like we met a bunch of artists personally, and we kind of like built up a little bit of a network. And then like through like Brony cons and stuff, especially, you meet artists there, and then you like meet them again at other places, and or you talk to them online, and they're like, yeah, I met you. But like it's a lot more social than I realized, and I think that a lot of people realize. So you do kind of, you end up like having a group of people that you see like basically only at cons, but like, you know, we wouldn't be as close to like the Paper Ponies or people like that if it wasn't for cons, which is really cool.
Because like when I said, when I first started going to cons, it was just to go to a pony convention. And then like when we first started going to cons, it was like to go to a pony convention together and like to meet like the four of us, because we'd already know each other online. But since I've been going to all these small conventions like EQLA, BabsCon, like Everfree, and like all those little ones, I repeatedly get to see artists like over and over, or like people who I've interacted with online. And then now those con acquaintances become friends and become kind of like con friends. But like I still carry with them that they're friends in real life, and I get to talk to them now on Skype and stuff. And like there's a bunch of people at BronyCon who are again like more online friends who I've gotten to know from other people at cons, stuff like people like Captain Pudge Muffin, like Vice, Pepuni, and like all those awesome people who I get to go meet. Oh my god, like Assassin Monkey is gonna be at BronyCon this year. Like so many people. It's going to be fabulous. So, like, you get to go meet all these people, and it's like, I'm no longer going to conventions because it's a Brony convention. I'm going to these conventions because there's all these amazing people who I get to go, like, meet and hang out there. And there also happens to be a bunch of horse junk that I can buy. But
I think that's part of the whole con experience. We have a friend coming from Australia, DualShock.
Is it me?
No, it's not you. And you know, he was kind of on the fence about whether or not to come, and I described to him that BronyCon was a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's kind of like can't miss in a way. And that sounds extreme, and it is extreme if you think of it from a general perspective. You know, if you don't know anyone and you're just going to a pony convention, then BronyCon is not a once in a lifetime or can't miss opportunity. But you know, the ability to see all of your friends there, like I don't go to cons for the cons. Cons are a bonus, you know, like I go to cons to congregate with a bunch of people that I don't get to see normally, you know, and then like the fact that there's happens to be a pony convention is like a super bonus, you know. So but that kind of aspect, that aspect of like gathering people together is kind of what makes cons the once in a lifetime or like makes them so important.
I would say just going by yourself though, the con can be really amazing. Like the cons that I've gone to, just not knowing anyone, just wung it, just gone. They've been equally as awesome. And like I feel like for like Duel, it's really hard because you're in Australia, so how awesome can it be? But I feel like if you have the money for an experience like that, it can still be really awesome. But the fact that we all know people makes it that much better.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like what takes a con from like a cool experience to like an unforgettable one is having people, and part of that is going and meeting people as well. Which is true. So,
dude, I just go to conventions for the plushies. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, it's true.
Speaking of which, I'm not going to be here next week because I'm going to a convention.
Hey!
What convention?
It's called Supernova. It's like a really, really small version of Comic Con.
Neato.
Yeah, it's
a pop culture expo.
I love those. I missed Emerald City Comic Con this year in Seattle, which is like the biggest Pacific Northwest Comic Con, and I really wanted to go, but it's just like, it was spring break and I was a bum, and I was planning for BabsCon and didn't get the time. It's a sad day. I really like that con. It's always good times.
Dude, so you're gonna like see all sorts of different fandoms and whatnot, and yeah, that'll be
awesome.
fun.
Australian times.
I've been to a couple of those. They're pretty cool. I
Have
like the
fun.
diversity.
Will do.
Yeah.
I didn't find out until like 2 days ago that it's next week. I thought it was later in the year, so we didn't have time to actually make a costume for it, but whatever.
Oh,
Sad days.
Where is it?
It's right here. It's on the coast.
No. Okay, but like Brisbane?
No, Gold Coast.
Brisbane?
Yeah.
So I don't know what major city is near the Gold Coast.
Brisbane is the nearest one.
Okay.
It's Brisbane.
But it's actually
Brisbane.
in
Brisbane.
the Gold Coast.
Yes.
Okay. Because I just Googled it and it said it was in Brisbane, so.
There's two. There's one in Brisbane in November, and there's one on the Gold Coast next week.
Well, that's really confusing.
Yeah.
That's really confusing.
And there's one in Melbourne today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about how weird we are?
Yeah,
No,
that's in the
I'm done with
talking
that.
points. Ted and Joel are
I-
weird. I,
I-
want to
I-
know why they're weird. Why are they weird?
I
weird?
went over all of it because like I just quickly went over it before we went to BabsCon.
Okay.
because we made an episode called My Waifu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we featured Sunset Shimmer like,
Yeah.
6 or 7 times.
I love it.
Yeah.
So
Well
like
done.
okay, so like everybody last week got to see your guys' perspective. Like they don't get to see my perspective, which is like literally Sunset Shimmer is brought up like every second day. Like every second day there's like something about Sunset Shimmer. So like I just want to remind people that there's two sides to the story. And we're all affected by waifu fever in our own special way.
Dude, that's why we did it last week, because we knew that,
You wouldn't know because you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
You are correct. I have not seen the second Equestria Girls movie. I don't
Yeah.
plan on seeing it either.
That's awesome.
So then you'll never know.
Correct.
You'll never understand.
First art piece.
Oh, that's me.
That's you.
Thanks.
Yeah. I'm first this week. Okay, so I chose this one. It's called creatively Rainbow Dash by Inenco. I think. Yeah,
Yay.
Inenco. It's like a weird word. But yeah, it's Rainbow Dash. She's all bright and colorful and just colors just everywhere. Just so much colors. And just like
right.
everything. It's just bright. It's just great.
Yeah, this is really saturated, and so it kind of like pops out in there, and like obviously, sometimes we mention things like OCs are too saturated, and that's a bad thing. But like, I kind of get the impression that sometimes we might give off the air that saturation isn't a good thing. And it's all about how you use it. And in this piece, it's very evident that the high saturation is used all over, and it's kind of like the theme of the piece. And in which case, it's acceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
because-
Because-
Well, we did that whole
point.
episode on it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you gotta be careful because you're ghostbustering on me now. You're crossing streams. Like you
Whoa.
you can't confuse like the concept of like, oh, saturation is bad and then saturation OCs is bad. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like we have our finger that we waggle at people and go like, don't saturate your ponies because it blinds your eyes, because there's that contrast when you have a really bright like red and black and green and purple OC. That is like, oh my gosh, those colors are turned up way too much because the things around them are way like more pastel or darker or whatever. So like if you have a very extremely bright saturated pony in a very pastel world, it starts to look cruddy. But when you have a piece like this of art where the point of it is to be very bright saturated colors and basically to use this shifting in hues to create what is an interesting art piece, that's completely different on our scale of what our bias is against saturated things, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, Bernd, your finger waggling voice is just perfect.
If you can picture, I was actually like waggling my finger at the screen
I can
too.
picture it.
Frendel? What? Did you say you're waggling your Frendel?
Finger friendle? I don't know, man. When Bird starts messing up words, it's how you know we're having fun.
So, what I like to think of is like, Rainbow Dash, the character. When you think of like the character in the show, is not like the colors in her hair are not like super saturated. They're not like up all the way on the saturation scale. And so this, I don't want to use the word filter, but I don't have a better word. But like this piece is almost like it's through a filter, where the character itself, like, is part of a piece that increases the saturation of everything, right? So on an OC, it's like when you give like a reference to an OC, like this wouldn't be a good reference to Rainbow Dash.
No.
Because if you tried to pick the colors out of this, they wouldn't be the right colors, right?
Why does
Because
Rainbow
it's not supposed
Dash
to be
look
show
like
accurate.
a neon sign?
Right, exactly. So like when I see a lot of people do like give the reference and it's really saturated, it's like that's not really what's supposed to happen. You can totally make an OC piece similar to this one where you got like busted out saturation.
Yeah.
That's totally okay, right? But you have to think of the context, and the context of this piece is things are super saturated past what they normally are.
Yeah. Like I like art pieces like this because it's the playing of hues, right? Like it's literally like playing with colors and doing awesome things with these bright colors, and
It's big, fun, loud, exciting, flashy.
Yeah.
such is
All of these
Rainbow
things.
Dash, am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's got a key like white outline to things, like white outline to Rainbow Dash, like her hair and stuff. It's very cute. Reminds me of
She
I Am
looks
Not.
like a sticker.
back in the day. Remember that? Remember I Am Not? Good times. I miss that guy.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
like that guy. Yeah.
Before he died.
Oh.
Ripperino. Pepperinos.
JK wasn't actually dead. Yeah, I do agree, Joel. It kind of looks like a sticker now that I look at it. I didn't think of that, but as soon as you said it, I was like, yep, that's a sticker.
Yeah, it's cool. Like I've seen that a few times, the white outline around the whole character, and it does look cool.
Yeah.
Have you guys actually bought any stickers recently?
I
Yes.
have never bought a sticker.
I just bought some stickers from Space Sketch, if you guys know the name. They're super awesome. Shout out, she did
I
not
have,
pay for
I have
that
a My Little
endorsement.
Pony sticker book. And it's full
yeah?
of sparkly stickers.
It's awesome.
that's awesome.
Every time you go to work, you should stick a couple on your face.
Oh, I could put them on my hard hat.
Yeah. Right, sorry, off track.
Hard hat. Sorry, I had to translate from Australian. Got it. Never mind. Moving on.
What would you
So,
translate that to?
I don't know. It sounded like hard hat.
No, I said hard hat.
Yeah.
There you go. Gotcha.
Go on, Ted.
I'm sorry. I'm language inept.
Yes.
Something that I really like about this piece is the different colors that are used for the highlights and the shadows, which is something that was brought up in our color
Yeah.
episode and has been brought up multiple times, like between then and now.
One color, cool shadow, etc., etc.
Yeah, so you get this purple shadow, green-ish highlights.
Yeah. Well, there's also just like the kind of like just the ridiculous of how colored the shadows are. We talk about like don't shade in black unless like there are obviously cases where you should shade in black, but like a lot of people mistakenly shade in black all the time, right? But this is kind of like on the opposite end of the scale where it's like this is just really purple and green, you know. But again, it's cool. It's within the context of the piece.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for that. I'll always bring it up. Like, look at the shadows. They're bright violet. Like, I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
By the way, we determined last week that we need to have a green episode in addition to our purple episode to complete the whole green bush purple horse
Green bush purple horse thing.
thingy. Yeah.
So if it was
So-
green bush, purple horse, then do we need like purple bush, green horse, the episode?
Right. Exactly.
yeah.
Never mind. Go on.
So I have a little like it's funny that you mentioned the green horse thing because I had someone recently come up to me and message me on Skype and was like, "So does Bernd still hate green horses?"
Oh, was it duel?
It was Chira.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Chira. I like
she was
your
like-
OC and I like you.
She was like listening back to old episodes and she was like, "Oh, Bernd said that he doesn't like green ponies," and I was like, "He's probably just exaggerating." So yeah, we'll have to if we have that episode, we're gonna have to work through your deep-seated issue with green horses.
Right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I remember that. I
just
remember
gonna
that episode.
bombard
And I
you with
remember
Lyra
that
pictures.
thing. And you guys like, what do you got against green? I was like, I hate green. And it was part of the it was part of the joke. God.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Everybody
Sounded real
flood
at the
Burn's
time.
inbox with Lyra.
I believe I called you green racist, and then you got really mad at me.
Yeah, I was like, how dare you? It's a bit harsh. Just like, oh, Bernd smelling Germans, you must hate them too.
Wow.
He's talking to
Well,
you.
anyways, one last thing on this piece. I really find the eye interesting. It's kind of weird to me. I'm not sure if I necessarily like it, but what they seem to do is they've taken these kind of like lens flare-y, kind of very light opacity circles and ovals and have kind of layered them on top of each other to kind of give the impression of eye shines, you know?
Yeah.
And where the lack of light is kind of gives the impression of pupils. So it's interesting because nothing is kind of explicitly drawn out in terms of inside the eye. Like there's no like explicit eye shine and pupil and stuff like that, but they're kind of implied through the usage of these overlaid circles and ovals.
Yeah, I like almost wish there was a pupil because like when I really look into like Rainbow Dash's eye and like, you know, overanalyze it, I feel like the lack of a pupil almost seems creepy, but then again if I like scoot back I can see the whole thing is like a pupil. I don't know. But I don't think it looks bad by any means. Like like you said, I think this looks pretty good. My favorite thing.
Alice had fun making this.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just look at like the lens flares, man. I was gonna crack a joke at it, but like there's so many little specular highlights everywhere that makes Rainbow Dash look so shiny, you know, and sparkly. But easily my favorite thing about this piece is this just shifting of color where it like goes from one hue and then shifts to another hue, and like you can see it in like her mane, her lower little mane there, right below her cheek, where it goes yellow, then the green, then the yellow, and like that kind of thing is all over. And even in the hair on top of her head, it goes orange to yellow to orange to red. And then on like her body and her hoofs, it's like from green to turquoise to blue to sand to violet, and like it makes this shift, right? I feel like it's used really, really well. And the art, and like all over, it makes the colors much, much more interesting, or makes them very interesting, especially to look at. So
I like the outlines. The outlines are nice.
Oh yeah,
because they're
colored as well,
white and bold.
The ones that make them look like a sticker.
Well, there's the white, there's the bright white outlines, right, which are very like catchy
but then
and
there's
shiny.
The thin, and the colored outlines.
The thin ones carry color as well, so they're actually like part blue and part violet, which again is a nice touch. I like seeing colored outlines on works.
Yeah.
All right,
it's a nice piece.
Let's move on to the next one.
Yes.
Bernd.
Oh, me. Okay. So the piece that I chose for this week is surprisingly relevant to the piece we just featured. It's called Her Radiance, Our Sunlight by Husi. And we haven't featured Husi in a little while. And this was a new piece he just made recently and really caught my eye because it's pretty much different than anything that's made in his gallery. Like, it's really different, and it's the super bright, super colorful piece. However, it is a bit more pastel than the one we just featured that Joel picked.
Yeah.
So this one's definitely a bit more pastel, a bit more toned down as far as the colors go, but they're still very, very bright, distinct hues. You know, like pure hues that are just like a little bit more pastel. So it's the use of extreme pastel hues instead of just the like a bright saturated hue. You know what I mean?
Same sort of thing, just not 100% saturated.
Yeah, I could say this. Yeah. Good.
I was just going to say that, like, the difference is that in the last piece, the focus was very much on the character, and there wasn't a whole lot of other, like, highly saturated areas to draw you away. Whereas in this piece, like, the entire background has got these weird, like, shades of pink and yellow, and so, you know, I think depending on how you look at it, it can be more saturated or less saturated, just, again, like, depending on your perspective, right?
For me, go ahead, Ted.
Sorry, I was gonna say it's kind of odd because the background is fairly saturated with the yellows and purples and stuff, and Celestia, well, she is saturated. I think is a little bit less saturated than the background.
Yeah.
And even still, like my focus is drawn to her, and I think that there may be some kind of reversal of saturated focal.
Yeah. So
what Midgigger's going on here?
That was the point. That was the point that I want to get at. Why? What makes this so cool? Why it really caught my eye, and why I feel like it's a great piece to feature. So like we could put this into Photoshop and like desaturate and do fancy things, but like for now, don't worry about that. What this piece really is, and what it stands for, is like what these colors do when they hit your eye. Like right. So it's their reactions with each other and what they do for you as a viewer and how they react to each other and next to each other. And so like for me, this piece is very much the play of Celestia's colors, and so like what Celestia the character is and how they react with this bright yellow background in which she's placed in, right? Because like when I look at the background, I mainly see that bright yellow, and there's a little bit of tinges and other things in like Celestia's colors that'll blend it around a little. So you have like the pinks in the bottom, some greens off to the side and the sky, and then you have the silhouette of the mountains, which are done in kind of like a peach in the background. But it's very, very much a huge incorporation of this bright yellow, right? And then you have the character, Celestia, who's basically cutting into that or placed in this bright yellow scene, and how she interacts with these other bright colors. So this piece is also awesome because it's this character, right? It's this represented character. There's a lot of tight paintwork in how Celestia is rendered, you know, in her body and her neck and her face. But then there's all this loose, very other bright hues. So again, I'm backtracking to what I just said when I started this point, but with pieces like this, when it's really bright and colorful, what this piece really stands for is it's how these colors react with each other. It's kind of like when you walk into a modern art museum and there's a bunch of paintings on the wall where they're just stripes and strips of bright colors, right? And people look at that and they go, what the heck is this? Like, why did these modern paintings, they didn't make any sense? These people like, it just doesn't make sense. Because the whole point of it is that it's just a bunch of colors, and it's the artists want the paintings purely to be what the colors do when they're next to each other, how they react with each other. It's a study of color. So a piece like this, it's very similar But instead, you drop Celestia and a pony in it, and it becomes this representation of something we love, pony-related, Celestia. But then it becomes more about this color, and that's why it's cool, and that's why I feel like it's an awesome feature. I'm apologizing because I'm rambling a bunch, but I've grown to really, really like these color paintings, where you have this bright, blinding yellow, and then this, like, pastel pink, and it's like, what does it do? It does crazy things. It's bright. It's happy. I don't know. I'll shut up.
I wanted to agree and disagree with you on one point, which is when you're bringing up the whole modern art thing with the like strips of color. There was one example that I thought was I think a lot of it is baloney, but there was one example that I thought was really cool that Ted and I saw back when he visited Canada last year, and it was an art piece that consisted of two colors. And there was like a really saturated red on the top and a really saturated yellow on the bottom. And the art piece had a line down the middle that was separating the two, a hard line. But that line was slightly below halfway and also very slightly angled. And what it was supposed to do, because you've got these two contesting colors, it's not quite halfway, it's not quite perfectly horizontal.
Can I guess?
It makes you go like, ooh, because it's not perfect. It's, our brains kind of want that kind of symmetry and perfection.
There's a symmetry perfection that makes you go, but I bet you anything that one line that went down between the two, it was one solid color, right? It was just one color line.
Well, no, it was only two colors. Like, there's only two colors total.
Okay, so there was two colors, but then there was just a line of, like, each of the color that went through each other?
Right, the line wasn't drawn, it was implicit. It was the separation of the two colors.
Okay.
So the colors separation,
like, it was just full, like, the entire canvas was full of these two colors.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll go try and find it.
Anywho, well, something like that where you have two very bright colors, what sometimes artists will do is they'll draw a line, like actually paint a line of another color in between the two or through the two. And what ends up happening is that colors, when they're surrounded by other colors, those hues can actually shift what the other hue looks like. So in this piece, like we'll take it back to Celestia, this bright incorporation of yellow, a blue on one side of her mane could look different than a blue on the other side of her mane, but they could be exactly the same color. So the hues around them actually make them look different. So let's try to bring up an example.
Black and gold dress.
Yeah, the gold dress is way something different because that's just people's minds being weird. But it is that concept, and where you see a color surrounded by something, and then your mind goes, "Oh," and it tricks you. So if you look at the top of Celestia's mane on the left-hand side, so the top right, there's there's a bright yellow in the background meeting the blue of her mane. So then now let's go to her pink wing, her left wing, which is on our right. And you see her mane is like cutting over her pink ring, right? So there's colors in there of those cyans and greens and blues that are the exact same colors as the left side of her mane that's touching that yellow in the top left. And they're the exact same quality of color, but because of the colors around them, it actually changes what we perceive them as. So we may I see the blue over her wing as more turquoise and green, where the blue next to the yellow looks more like light blue and white. And it also seems warmer because it's next to that bright yellow, where if I look at the green and blue in her wing, because her wing is so violet and warm, it actually makes the blue in between it seem cooler. So that violet makes the blue there seem cooler colored to me, where on the top left it seems much warmer and brighter. So that's again what I'm kind of talking about in the playing of colors and how they interact with each other. You know what I mean?
Here's another example. This fairly well known optical illusion where you've got the the cylinder on a chessboard casting a shadow, and you got to look at the two different squares marked A and B. Which one is darker? A looks darker because it's surrounded by light colors, but they're actually the exact same color.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there's another one, which is the color cube illusion, which was actually demonstrated on a TED Talk that I watched, where it's
what did you talk about?
Similar concept. It's a similar concept, but it's just there's a cube with a bunch of colors on it, and there's two sides of the cube. There's one square that's the same color, but one's face is in shadow, and it just looks completely different.
Yeah. But so those are laid out optical illusions, right? And that's their purpose. They're just little optical illusions. When obviously Husi didn't set out to make an optical optical illusion in this piece with Celestia. He just set out to make a very pretty piece, a very beautiful piece with the use of very bright pastel hues. He even says that in description. He just wanted to throw some colors around and have fun. And I love this piece. Like, even when I make it big, like on my monitor, and there's all these bright colors, it's still pastel enough to where it doesn't blind me because of how bright it is, because everything is like very bright and very colorful. And there's a lot of really beautiful playing with colors and areas going on. Like, I love the bottom right where it's all like squiggly and painty and all the colors are down there. And like your mind can even put stuff there. Like, what is that? Trees? What is it? Roots? What is it? Magic? Who knows? But it's still very pretty.
Whoa, magic.
You know, like, in even how Celestia is painted, too. There's even what we were talking about in the first piece, where, like, her shadows are done in a very almost, like, dark violet, and she's outlined with very bright yellows, and, like, so her contours are still shown by, like, bright little spots of color. And, like, this is just, it's just a really, really beautiful painting in a lot of places, where you have the really tight, exact portions of painting in Celestia's body, and then the very loose, like, free, huge, open, like, planes of color, like, in her hair and wing. Like, look at her right wing on our left, on the left side of this picture. Like, it's hardly detailed at all. It's literally just one, like, big brush of color, and some yellow overlaps it. And, like, it makes the impression of a wing, and because it's less detailed, it seems to recede, and because the colors around it, like, make it pop, it's still a part of the character, and it creates this very colorful silhouette. And, like, I like it! I keep talking about it, and, like, I feel like I've pretty much talked for the past 10 minutes, and I apologize. I had a lot of pent-up love for this piece.
There's a whole bunch of detail in her
army is coming for you.
Okay, I gotcha. Very cute. Where it's just ever so slightly off. I feel you. So, like, that piece you just linked, if I can go on a little tangent about it, if you drew a yellow stripe through the red, and then a red stripe through the yellow, and if you were to look at just portions of that, they would do things with each other. Like, and react with each other. Or if you grabbed a little piece of red and threw it in the middle of the yellow, or a little piece of yellow and threw it in the middle of the red, again, like, the colors would react. I actually have a book that's very similar. It's called Joseph Albers' Homage to the Square, and it's just straight up, it's just a book about color theory.
I've read that.
And, like, all he does is, put colors in squares, and colors squares and other colored squares. And it's just...
Yep.
Dude.
Yeah.
The lack of anti-aliasing in this is harshing my mellow.
Yeah,
So, like, obviously, like, it was made in MS Paint, so...
I will do something a little bit nicer.
Like, that's not the point, though. The point is it's supposed to be, like it's supposed to make you go, ugh. And, like, it's very slightly off, and it's better in person, obviously.
Yeah.
But, like, there's, like, imagine the saturation that you see in that, and, like, that's how saturated it was, like, in real life.
How big was that piece, too?
It was about the size... It was about half of the... This is the size of your upper body.
Okay, so size of your body, so
maybe
what,
a little
like
bit bigger.
3-4 feet?
Yeah,
4
maybe
feet?
a little
Okay.
bit bigger.
Well, I don't know. I
Okay.
lived, so it could be pretty big.
That's all right. I was saying sometimes when you see huge color exhibits like this, there's a lot of famous artists who, they'll paint something like that, but they'll make it like 2 stories high, right? They'll make it like 12 feet high. And like that in itself is a huge accomplishment, to paint that much pigment where the entire thing is the same quality of paint and same quality of bright, extremely saturated color. And like, the thing weighs like 200 pounds because of how much oil paint is on it, and like the canvas and wood that holds it together, where like that in itself is an amazing feat. But yeah, I'm sorry.
All right,
Forgive me.
next piece. Because we do need to move on.
All right, next piece is Imperialism by Yakovlev Vad. Still have trouble with that name, but I'm getting better. And it is a very interesting symmetrical piece of Celestia and royal guards, I'm assuming, look very much like Spartans.
Yeah, they look like Roman guards because of, the red thing. Where in the show, they have a white or
like it's
blue
the hair color.
top. Yeah.
Well, they're supposed to be their hair color,
Well,
right?
but usually it's like a white or a blue. I feel like, to give it that, the regal sense. Match Celestia.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really interesting piece that is very heavily symmetrical, except for very small details like, Celestia's hoof being up and little things like there's a little like camera line, like a flash line, not like a flash line, but like it's like a lens flare-ish thing on her left, our right ear.
The thing is, the background is symmetrical and Celestia's not.
Right. Well, Celestia's a lot of her is symmetrical. Her face and her chest and her wings and stuff.
Her
and
crown. Yeah,
and
there's
the
things that are
guards are
symmetrical,
very
but yes,
symmetrical.
as a character, she is in a pose that's not perfectly symmetrical. I get what you mean.
But the piece as an overall is very, very symmetrical, which is quite interesting to me, and it's quite striking. And these kind of pieces are very appealing in a way to human brains. We do like symmetry. Recently there's been studies done to do with the attractiveness of faces and how we perceive symmetrical faces as more attractive than non-symmetrical faces. You can kind of extend that towards art pieces as well, where there's pieces that look like they should be symmetrical or that they can be symmetrical. If you make them symmetrical, then it comes out very appealing to the eye, and this is an example of that.
Yep.
Well, this is sort of like a play on what we were just talking about, where it's off by just an ever so slight amount, whereas at first glance it looks perfectly symmetrical, and the more you look into it, you realize it's just that little bit off. Like the fire on either side are different. The two guards standing behind her have different eye colors. The two big trees you can see behind them are in slightly different positions, but as a whole, it's symmetrical. As you look at it, just glance at it, it is symmetrical. But when you look at it more, it's not. So it gives your eye that little bit of a weird feeling, like you were talking about just before.
I mean, I personally disagree because I don't get a weird feeling from this piece. The other piece that I mentioned that was supposed to be just slightly off was supposed to invoke the feeling of kind of like, ooh, this is off a little bit. And I think the little things you mentioned, the eye colors and the flames and the trees are just artifacts of not copy pasting in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And it's less like intentional and more just kind of a result of not being pixel perfect.
Yeah, I do.
Right.
I agree with you both, and I feel like you both have good points. Where like the yellow-red piece you brought up was meant to be weird, where this one there are things slightly off into it that do make your eye travel around and look at things. So like I like Joel's point a lot about that, because for me it's kind of like it's an uncanny valley type of scale, where if something's too symmetrical it'll seem weird, but if it's looks like it's meant to be symmetrical but things are too off, then we'll look at it and we'll go like, oh, we recognize that's not symmetrical, and then that starts to like, we don't like it. But this piece by Yakovlev, like it's very well made. I would actually say this is one of my favorite pieces by him. As like I blow this up and like look at it, like maximize on my screen, I really, really like a lot of features in it with, the mirroring and how things are set up to be to kind of be symmetrical, but they're all a little different. And they are hand painted, so they're not like perfectly symmetrical, but they are very similar. So it's like when I look for symmetricality, I look for things that I can directly compare, like distances and lengths, to like kind of judge things. So obviously there's a lot of things that aren't, and there's a lot of things that are, but a big, huge key that you can use to judge symmetricality yourself when you're looking at other artworks or this one is always look at the side of the picture plane, because being digital art, it's usually always vertical and always straight or always horizontal, the bottoms and tops of the picture that we're looking at. So you can use that as a good judge to see if things are perfectly straight or how close they are or far away from each other they are. And that's just a thing of digital photography. So you can see the tips of her wings are very, very similar in how like far away they are. The same thing goes for the lanterns, those big fiery lantern-y things, whatever they're called. That's where they are put, like how close or far away they are is again very similar. And so you have to look for little like visual keys like that, right? Same with the statues, they're placed in the exact same spot. And then you can see the characters, like their heads are at the exact same angle, their eyes are both at the exact same angle, the arm or the guards behind Celestia's wings, where she's kind of like covering up their face and they're like peeking over them. I like that too. And,
Celestia's looking directly at the camera, and her face is very, very symmetrical, which is interesting because that's not how faces normally are. But
I like her face with her eyebrow like partially raised.
Yeah. I do enjoy the angle. Yakovlev was mentioning that that they didn't really. It's not something that he does a lot, right? He doesn't do like straight on faces. And this was kind of like a first experiment into that, which I hadn't even noticed really, and I don't think it's necessarily true, but there's certainly not a lot of pieces like this one in terms of like how straight on and how kind of like quote unquote perfectly straight on it is,
Yeah, to me it looks like her head's partially down, and I think it's meant to be that way,
Right. Yes. It is down, but I suppose from a horizontal view, I usually think of the faces as we see it in the show as kind of like side view, 3/4 view, straight on view, that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
The horizontal, or I guess it'd be the vertical axis that's turning, and so to look straight onto the camera, you're right, it is down a bit, but it's also looking straight in terms of the horizontal axis, whereas the guards aren't.
I really like this kind of like future punk Romanesque art, like armor and style that's given to this piece, with because like there's definitely Roman connotations with the two guards and their helmets, and then the Julius Caesar like leaf crown going around Celestia, and then like obviously like golden armor. And I really like that hammer. It's very subtle. You can barely see like the edge of it, behind her hair, but this hammer slung over her shoulder. And that concept of like the hammer or hammer and sickle or something, it's very like power oriented. I like that.
He's still following his thing of making really intricate armor and really intricate sort of technology blended with really organic trees and flowers and stuff.
Yep.
Because everything that we've looked at has had that sort of juxtaposition with the technology and the armor and the trees.
Right. Right.
So
Which is really cool.
We're still doing that, which is
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to bring up this point before we run out of time, but the wings are impeccable.
Oh yeah,
they're
feathers.
incredibly textured.
I'm sorry, what are they?
Impeccable.
No, they're impeccable.
All right. Then.
Also, Celestia is slightly fuzzy.
Yeah, she's all fuzzy.
I was just
Yay.
going to say there's a lot of things that Yakovlev's really, really good at, and one of those is making these awesome like textures digitally with either brushes or some kind of magical Yakovlev things. But I believe he did a little tutorial recently on how he does hair, and it was very cool. And so like the wings are the same kind of texture in that, and then like the fur in Celestia, which is cute because her face isn't textured in the fur, but then her body is, and it turned out really well. Sometimes a lot of artists try to do fur and it turns out really wonky or it looks funny. This is very cute, very subtle, very soft, and the guards don't really have that. They're kind of like a solid tone, so it kind of makes Celestia stand out in her texture. It makes her a little bit more unique.
I like how subtle it is. It's not like a huge big deal. It's kind of like short-haired fur, which is kind of the impression you get from the show.
Also, did you want to say something, Ted?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the massive army that's behind her.
Yeah. That's just what I was going to talk about. One of the coolest things about this piece is that there's a big play with warm and cool colors, and it separates the foreground and then the background. So there's kind of a midground, and that'd be those trees and like pillars and statues and stuff. The statues are even kind of in this foreground, but Celestia, the guards, the lanterns, and the statues seem to be kind of on a very similar plane. And then everything behind them is like cool colored. So you have this juxtaposition of very cool blues and greens, with yellows and reds in front of them. So you have this like cool to very warm, which is probably one of the most attractive portions of this piece and how it's colored. Like it's colored extremely well, and I really like the choices that Yakovlev has done with there's color rhythm, and so there's repetitions of colors. So you have the red in the mains, and then the red in Celestia's jewels and cape, and then you have like the blue in her hair with the blue in the background, and then the green in the background with the green in Celestia's hair. So there's all these repetitions where colors are like they're like reused and similar to each other, and we've talked about this again before, but it creates an awesome sense of harmony and methodicalness to the piece that makes it, because it looks very intentional, and it brings the entire piece together, and I really, really like it. And the gold especially too, with the spears and her crown and her armor and the torches, like they all mirror each other. The flames even is so good.
Where are my keys? Max, get your keys.
Can't control me.
No, I know. It's been a while since we've had a good Bernd ramble.
That was it. The thing that stands out the most this piece to me, though, is her eyes. If you notice, there's no bright violet pink.
I'm sorry. I can't. I was just gonna leave it and let you go, but you were like, "Well, that's it." Speaking of the eyes.
Well, I mean, that was the last little point, which is an amazing point. If I do fluff my own feathers, there is no other mirroring of colors in her eyes. Her eyes being the center focal point of this piece, they are the brightest pink, and there's no other pink to reflect them or create that kind of color rhythm that I was talking about. They're like right there, they're in the center, they engage you, and there's no other color to distract from them. And it's really, really awesome. I just noticed that. It's entrancing. You good? You want me to talk some more? I can keep going.
So can we move on to the last piece?
Go for it.
Okay, so the last piece is called Two in the Field by AJVL. We featured a piece by AJVL last week, which is one of his portraits, and this is back to his kind of same old style where it's big landscapey pieces.
Oil painting.
Yeah. It's cute. It's Applejack and Rarity
Jack.
playing in a field. Yeah.
Rapplejack.
And I don't know, it's nice. It's a lot less saturated than the first two pieces and even the last piece.
It's relaxing.
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed these pieces by AJVL. You know, these kind of, you know, very painty, like background, like scenery
Natural.
pieces. I've always loved them.
Yeah.
I
like the colors that he uses in here too. Like if you look at the trees off to the left are kind of a purpley,
violet.
and like
see that?
The foreground is kind of this dark blue to kind of give a little bit of difference in value and also hue shift.
And it does that foreground
nice.
background thing again, or foreground midground in this case.
Yeah.
I think there's a really interesting aspect here with the characters because, you know, when you take a look at his other... He has a bunch of other art pieces that are, you know, grand landscape small ponies. You know, it's kind of one of his things. And in this case, the ponies are a bit bigger than they normally are, but I feel like they're less detailed than they normally are as well. There's something kind of very messy about them. You know, especially in the eyes and the cutie marks you can say. Joel, stop typing, you're messing me up. I was looking at the chat. So, like, you can tell that the eyes and the cutie marks are less detailed and kind of just very loosely done, which is something that I don't traditionally associate with his style. I mean, obviously, his ponies are usually very small, so inherently they're going to be less detailed because they're farther away and it's harder to get those details in. But this one almost kind of breaks that mold as it brings them forward, makes them a little bit more of a focus, and yet still keeps that kind of like lesser and looser detail.
Well, I think you can kind of see that in the entire piece overall, where it's a lot of just like splotches of color, whereas in some of his other landscape pieces, he does go into a bit more detail, like in the trees and the grasses and stuff.
Yeah, like he does. It does seem to be a lot looser in general in terms of the actual brushwork. Now that I take a look at his other pieces, his other pieces are obviously smoothed out in a lot of ways. And you're right, this one does have this air of you know, crispness to it, in that you can see the brushstrokes.
Well, and it kind of gives it a carefree feeling, kind of like, you know, the feeling that the characters are experiencing. Art reflecting reality or whatever. You know?
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I like it. It's I'm not going to say too much about this because we are kind of going up on time, but it's a very serene kind of piece and happy, calm.
And I see.
Well, I needed a break after those first two pieces. Holy cow!
I see.
Yeah, can we all just like stare at this for a few minutes?
Yeah, just enjoy it in a moment of silence. Not too bad. I do see some of the things that I was talking about just in the piece before this with that kind of like color repetition. For this one, it doesn't feel so much like deliberate color repetition. It feels more like the use of like a soft color palette. And I feel like AJVL had kind of like a palette that he wanted laid out for a piece like this, where, you know, you kind of use paint these kind of colors on that are very distinct. So like the blues in the foreground, they kind of mirror a little bit of the blues and Rarity, and like her eyes. It's very, very subtle. You know, I'm kind of digging here, but it's all along this similar like a palette I was talking about, right? Where you don't deviate too much from that because you can go crazy, but all the colors do seem to be very similar and blend well. With like the violet in the left hand side and like that tree, like that really, really catches my eye. Like the most right hand tree is just like has this really bright spot of violet in it, and then the orange and Applejack as well. I feel like those two are the most juxtaposition or contrasting colors. You know what I mean? I get that
But
feeling.
you can see elements of both characters' colors within the scene itself too, right? Like Rarity's purple and bluey colors are kind of like the most standout purpley of the piece, but you have elements of her in the foreground. In the similar way, Applejack is very orange compared to the rest of the scene, but there also is some oranges in the trees that kind of play off of each other.
Mm-hmm. And they both have their little complements too. So, Applejack's orange, blue the sky in the foreground, and the greens in the grass and the trees complementing Rarity's purples. I guess those aren't direct complements. The yellows would be a direct complement to her purples, but you could say that her like bluey purples are complemented by the yellowy greens. That's not too much of a stretch. It's all that color palette, what colors seem to go well with each other.
Yeah. Hey, all right. So I think we should probably move on to the questions because we are pretty much out of time for the art. But it was a fantastic piece.
Yeah, beautiful
fantastic
stuff.
Pieces.
I always love Age of Veal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I do the questions?
yes.
All right. We're going to have time to do both?
Yeah, we've still got 10 minutes.
Okay.
But
All right. So the first one's a quick one anyway. First one from Sonnenblitz is, what is your favorite insect?
You'd think that, like, when we pick these questions, I'd actually start thinking of the answers before right this second.
yeah. No,
but I didn't.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to dive into them. Go ahead. You got one, Ted?
Yeah, I do. Probably crickets. And I have a story.
I have a story too.
When
Guys, stories killing me here.
Go.
When I was, a long time ago, when I was young, my family took a trip out to France, and we went to we stayed in a castle in the countryside, and every night after dinner, my sister and I and a few of the French kids that were also staying at the hotel would go out because they had this large field, and we would just go out and we would catch crickets, and we kind of would have competitions to see who could catch the most. And it was cute. We were young. We were
good memories.
Cute.
Yeah, I like it. My story is also about crickets, but I hate them. They're evil.
They suck. I disagree. They suck. I'm totally with Bernd.
Was there more to that story, Ted, before I go on?
No.
It's not more to our story.
I used to...
but
good.
Before you go on, this is not your least favorite insect, remember?
Yeah, I know. I used to own lizards, and we had feeding crickets, and they would never shut up, so it was hard to sleep. And then because I was a kid and I was dumb, I accidentally spilled crickets everywhere, and then they were all over our house, and then they would chirp in our house, and I hated them, and they all migrated to the basement where my sister lived. Suck it. And they would live in her room and drive her crazy, and she always hated me for it. It was great. So I have bad memories tied to crickets.
So it's not the fault of the crickets, it's your fault.
In Alaska, we don't have cool kinds of crickets. In Alaska, it was just like the cruddy feeder crickets. But yes, it was all my fault, Joel. I have a few displays of bugs and butterflies on my wall. I don't know if you guys saw them when you were over here, but I have these little museum display cases of stuff hanging in my room. So I definitely really like bugs, and I really enjoy butterflies, a lot of the really beautiful winged big butterflies. I don't have a specific butterfly I love that one, but I really enjoy those. So I'd say that's my favorite one. Also the really shiny...
Have you named your taxidermied bugs?
I have not, no, because I'm not a weirdo. But
you do have taxidermied bugs all over your living room.
The judgment is strong.
This one's Mary, this one's Sue, and that one's Sally. No, so there's really bright beetles too. Have you seen those? May bugs are they called? And they have bright iridescent shells. Those are really cool too. I like really bright colorful bugs, man. That's just it. Just really bright colorful bugs. Those are my favorites. I don't have a name.
All right. I like the Rhinoceros Beetle.
Hardcore.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I googled cool insects. and that was one of the ones that came up, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. That looks pretty cool. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of insects. I don't want to ever meet one in real life. But they're cool to look at, and they remind me of Heracross. So there you go.
Sweet.
They remind me of
because that's what they were based on.
Yep. Yep. Sorry. The bugs weren't based on the Pokemon. The Pokemon was based on the bugs.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I extend this question to bug-type Pokemon?
I guess.
Scyther or Joltik? I can't think of my favorite like real world insect. I know I hate butterflies.
I know there's
So,
weird
Bud.
insects. I know there's weird insects in Australia we don't have.
Yeah.
Well, what is Joltik based on?
No, real bugs.
He's a little bug. He's
Well, that's
just a
what I
bug.
said. Like what
okay.
what is he based on?
Yeah.
Like what's the real life animal that they took him from?
Hold on, Joltik.
I don't know. He's like a cross between a spider and something
Joltik.
fuzzy. He's like a spider sheep.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's like a cute fuzzy spider.
Yeah.
You ever seen jumping spiders? Jumping spiders are always really cute.
Jumping spiders. I found one on my car windshield the other day.
I think Joel's answer is Joltik.
Yeah, I think so.
And the
I
bugs
can't think of any
Joltik is
real
based
world
on.
like insects that I really like.
Well,
you
there's
guys have never
certain
said.
there's certain
Rhinoceros Beetle's
Oh yeah. There's certain
Tarantulas aren't insects.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah,
arthropods.
they're close. It's like it looks like a bug. Yeah, it's not technically a bug. It's
Bernd, what's a blug?
whatever.
Big black blug with the big black flare.
Anywho, there's some spiders that are really fuzzy, and you can get some really fuzzy bugs too. Like, you ever seen fuzzy caterpillars? I love fuzzy caterpillars.
They're really, really, really
When did
itchy.
this turn back into Burns' answer?
I like cute, colorful, and fuzzy bugs.
Millipedes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Millipedes are good.
Why do you need so many legs, bug? You got too many legs.
Right? Who needs a million legs?
I am like desperately trying to figure out what bug that Joel. Joel, just turn around and ask Silver. Do it.
Silver, what is Joltik based on? He's a mite.
He's a mite. What's a mite?
I might.
So like mites, like dust mites,
Like dust mites.
yeah.
And
God,
mites.
they look freaking terrifying.
You googled it. There's
my
some
God.
mites that can look really cute, but
Mites
very
are arachnids, apparently.
small, very small,
so it
like
doesn't work.
microscopic like bugs. But yeah, Google
I like
images.
Joltik better.
Yeah, Google images is not very.
I googled Joltik again, and now I'm
Ticks are
happy.
mites. Anywho, enough about gross bugs, more about cute bugs. Go look up
No, what's
fuzzy
the- no,
caterpillars. on Google.
Fuzzy caterpillars.
Everyone
and
on the
fuzzy
show.
and
We've got a second question.
Fuzzy tarantulas.
We're not gonna be able to get to the
let's
second
just do
question.
the second
Next
question,
question.
please.
We
Second
also have a
question.
spoiler. Okay. Go
If you could all choose nicknames to call each other regardless of their opinions, what would you call them by Smooth Sailing Pony? I can't say mine on the radio.
I
This is
already
radio. On the show.
Welcome to the radio. CAC 109.9.
Speaking of radio, I hate the announcer in Legend of Korra.
Oh, for God's
I
sakes.
love that guy. That
I
old
hate that
timey
guy so
70s
much.
Why do
announcer
you
guy.
do this to me? Why do you all do this to me? I'm
I
like, hey,
love
let's
that
answer a
guy.
question. You're like, let's talk about Korra.
Derail the train. Choo-choo.
I'm sorry,
So-
who's the one that's been... Let's talk about Korra for the last, months.
On the show?
Yes?
No, during the talking point? When we bring
This
up
isn't a
things
talking
about our
point, this is a
life?
question. This is when
Yeah,
we're
it's a
allowed to talk
question.
about whatever.
What was the question? Okay, I'm gonna go look up the question because I actually forgot what the question was through all of this.
If you
Fun
could
guy.
all
Choose
choose nicknames to
nicknames.
call each
Yeah.
other regardless of their opinions, what would you call them by Smooth Sailing Pony?
I already do that to Bernd.
Yep. Rainbow Plasmas for
Constantly.
me is like Brenda, Berndini.
Berndini the
Brandini.
Wizard. Please, use
Yep.
your full name.
All right, sorry. So those ones,
Well,
those are
after
Rainbow
this
Plasmas for
episode-
me. What about you, Ted? You go.
After this episode, Bernd, you're the rambling man.
Rambling man.
Or,
Yeah, after this episode, you're right. This is a completely new
man.
development.
I drank coffee before the episode. It may or may not have been a mistake or the best decision of my life.
So my answer's already done. All right, guys. Nickname time. What would you guys call one other person without it? Like, what does that even mean? That sounds like such a negative question. Regardless of their opinions, what do you call them behind their backs?
What are you trying to say? Sin?
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So no one's
I
got
don't
anyone
think-
for each
well-
other? Like, I don't know what I'd call you guys. Like,
but our names are kind of nicknames in a weird way because we
Yeah.
no longer call each other by our online names.
yeah, because like we've met each other in real life and we know each other so much now. We're like friends on Facebook and stuff that I just call
It's
you
true.
like Joel Max Ted. Joel Max
Yeah.
Ted. Those are your names.
I call Ted Tedders sometimes.
Mine's cheating
Yeah.
because like you basically took the 01 off of my name and there you go.
yeah,
my name.
It's true. So are we cheating there, Bernd, or were you cheating?
Yeah, a little bit of both. But so I do have a funny story about nicknames though. When at BabsCon, when I was hanging out with Darkflame, we were going to go get bubble tea in downtown San Francisco. Wow, that was a hard sentence. Downtown San Francisco. and we're going to get tea. And there was honeysuckle growing up the side of this building in San Fran. So it's just this big, huge, sunny honeysuckle vine, and it had these huge honeysuckle flowers that were super huge. I'm like, oh my god, honeysuckle! Like, we don't get this up in the Pacific Northwest. It's not warm enough to grow. And so, like, Dark and Ardale are looking at me, and Casey's looking at me too. And I just grab this honeysuckle flower, like, off the wall. I rip it off the wall, and then I take the inside out of it, because you can pull, like, the inside sternum thing out of it, whatever it's little called, you know, the inside little bit. And I just, like, shove it in my mouth. And they all look at me like, what the hell are you doing? You just don't shove flowers in your mouth. And I'm like, it's honeysuckle. The nectar on it, it's sweet, it's sugary, which it was, by the way, and it was delicious. And so I just was like...
The person who, like, owned the flowers was like, what the heck?
It was, like, dark, and no one was going to notice that their honeysuckle's gone.
I like the fact that I thought your excuse was to be like, no, it's a public plant. Like, everybody does it. It's like, nah, it's dark. No one will notice.
Yeah, no one will notice. Well, that, and it was public. And it was probably a weed growing there anyway. It wasn't, like, in a pot or something. It was just growing up the bloody wall. But anywho, so like, and I ended up just sucking on this honeysuckle, and as we were walking down the street to get tea, and apparently Dark thought it was hilarious, so his new little nickname / pet name for me is Honeysuckles.
That's
I'm gonna call you Honeysuckles.
That's weird.
That's
really weird.
That was that story from BabsCon.
I'm glad that we got to the end of that story, because I was like, there's some sort of redeeming quality to this. No, it's just weird in general.
Yep, and
the name's weird, the story's
I kept the
weird.
honeysuckle flower, and like I kept it behind like my ear and stuff, and like people were looking at me weird in the bubble tea store. It was a good time.
After you put it in your mouth?
Tea.
No, because it's two parts. There's the inside of the flower, and you can actually, you take the back off, and it pulls the inside like little sternum bits out.
Sorry, I'm
with,
already
like, the
bored.
nectar.
I'm so done with this.
You have the flower part, like the little bell. And then the part that you suck on.
I just don't care about flowers. I just don't. Plugs, please.
Okay,
it's a really pretty flower.
Also, down Fran.
Downtown San Fran. It's downtown San Fran.
Francisco.
Downtown San Fran.
Everybody shush. So, thank you for that. It's the first time I've actually asked you to do something, and you did it. So, plugs.
Not sure.
We have a Picado, which is Google.
Excuse me?
Google Cutie Art Crusaders on Picado to find us, because you can't just say the Picado link.
Yep.
We have YouTube, which is youtube.com/Cutie Art Crusaders. We have DeviantArt, which is cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com. We have an email address, which is cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com. We have social media, which is Facebook and Twitter. We are at Cutie Art Crusader on Twitter. We are Cutie Art Crusaders on Facebook, and we have a Tumblr, which is cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com. All those things, we are there.
We have
really
everything, and you can find all of that on our DeviantArt page or in the links below if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a like and subscribe.
If you're watching on YouTube or Google.
Yes.
All right.
We have a Picardo, which is Google. All right, well, that's
whether you're on Google
week,
or
guys.
YouTube, we love you all the same.
My name is Flutterguy317.
Whoa, shut up. I haven't let you guys shut up so I can let you guys talk.
Wait, before we do that, there's going to be a spoiler cast after this again.
Oh my god,
stay tuned.
I'm going to kill you. Why do you think I told you to shut up? So I could say, do you have anything else to say? No, forget it. It's gone. It's done. We're done with.
We run the
We're
show
done with.
now.
You guys, you've lost the privilege to talk about anything else. We've got a spoiler cast, as usual. That's actually the first one that Bernd and I will be on.
Yes.
That's a good point. So
That'd be sweet. I'm
Come
excited.
listen to us.
I'm excited. I'm pumped.
if you're on YouTube, go look it up, or it'll be in the description or something. I don't know. We're separating the videos, so.
It'll be
Anyways,
on each page.
whether or not you're on the live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Bernd.
I'm Flutterguy317.
And I'm Google Spark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.